This is going to be an unplanned, unscripted rant, is what it's going to be. It's going to be a rant. For some reason, my microphone is it not working properly? There we go. Now it's working properly, apparently. Properties. Yes, it's that one. Yeah. Apologies, everybody. Yes, this one's going to be an unscripted rant of a video. This is probably going to piss quite a number of people off, okay? But I want you to know that what I'm going to say here is... Hang on a second. Quite low. Hang on a second. Sorry, everybody. Advanced audio properties. Let's deal with that. Desktop audio. Fuck off. Let's just whack that up a little bit. Apologies, everybody. For some reason my mic settings have changed. But there we go. Hopefully that's better now. Right. What I'm about to say tonight is probably going to piss some lefties off. That's fine. Whatever, right? But know that it comes from a place of love and anger. Lots and lots of anger, but also love. And I'm just going to put the chat on the screen as well, because that's a thing I learned how to do. Uno momento. Boom shakalaka. Look at that. Absolutely delicious. Oop. There we go. There we go. We don't need to cut off my head. How do I make that? How do I get rid of that bit of the screen? Because I don't need to see me typing. Anyway, don't fucking matter. The chat's on the screen. Shut up. Now, check my mic connection. Your voice is like... Oh, so my fucking microphone's... Is that better? That's... Whoa, that's... Yeah, that's whacked it right up. Apologies. Don't know why it does that sometimes. Maybe I've just got shit connections or something, I don't know. Anyway, hello there everyone. Going to be talking about a thing that made me rather angry. You can see it on the screen. You may have seen the thing itself. But even so, this has made me so angry. On top of other things that have made me angry over the course of forever, literally as long as I've been alive. But the left around the world right now is not exactly on a massive winning streak. I get that. Trust me, as a British leftist, I get the need to try and look for wins in the world. Trying to look for something positive. Looking for maybe major figures that might generally agree with one another. Not agree with one another, agree with us on anything. Literally anything. It's fucking desperate. I know. We've just seen Jeremy Corbyn, the best chance for democratic socialism, or social democracy, whatever, in Britain, probably within my entire lifetime, just get defeated in a second or third general election, whatever. And yeah, that was hurtful. Very, very hurtful. That has depressed me enormously and made me despise the people who live around me, even though my city isn't particularly bad in that regard. Generally speaking, my compatriots, I have grown to fucking despise because of their approaches to these things. So I understand, trust me, that being a leftist on the internet is being a leftist, especially online in many respects, is difficult, and you're trying to look for any wins you can. But I've always said this: there's no point trying to sacrifice who you are for especially Pyrrhic victories, but for any victories. If socialism or even social democracy is to be properly achieved, it must be done properly. We can't pretend, like, say, fucking tanky cunts do, that, oh, China's socialist. No, it isn't. No, I'm sorry, no, it isn't, okay? If you're prepared to sacrifice everything on the altar of just trying to win, maybe, then you would end up achieving nothing. I don't want to win as a faux left. I want to win or lose or draw as the left. Okay? And I've seen a rather nasty trend towards right-wing entryism. There will always be, and has always been, right-wing entryism. Okay? And I suppose you could say to an extent that the right might say there's always been left-wing entryism into the right as well. Because you try and pinch people from one side, don't you? You try and say to like the alt-right, you don't need to be this way. You try and win them round. That happens. But there's a difference between talking to people on the other side and allowing them into your spaces to corrupt and poison and generally fuck over your people. And unfortunately, the left, not just in America, but I am specifically talking mostly about America right now, but the left has allowed far too much of that entryism to come in. You're starting to see the creep of like Nazbol kind of ideas. You're starting to see more eco-fascist / anarcho-primitivist, and I realise there is a difference between those two ideologies, but there's rather too much similarity as well. You're starting to see those kinds of, frankly, rather evil ideologies make their way into the left. And for some reason, has my chat stopped? No. Okay, Nazbol, just for the person that asked, that's Nazi Bolshevik, or National Bolshevik is technically what it is. But it's essentially a Nazi who likes communist aesthetics. They'll still frog march Jews into the gas chambers, but they'll do it wearing a hammer and sickle rather than a swastika. That's basically the difference, okay? But some leftists, who are fucking idiots, and those are mostly the people to whom I'm talking to tonight, in terms of, or talking about, I'm talking to my people, I suppose, but I'm talking about idiots. Fucking idiots, largely. Although, not all of them are idiots, some of them are willfully evil individuals who are trying to do the right-wing entryism, and some people are duped by people who they believe to be good actors. So, which is sort of idiotic in a way, but is redeemably so. Okay? Yeah, but some idiots will look at the communist iconography used by people like Nazbols or the green, friendly sounding stuff within eco-fascism and decide therefore that they're leftist or worthy of anything other than complete scorn and derision. So, we've seen a lot of that. And one particular trend which has been an undercurrent bubbling within that kind of bubbling pot of shit has been a certain leftist tendency towards seeing any anti-corporatism as something we can ally ourselves with. Because, and don't get this twisted, being against corporations is badass. You should do that. You should be that. You should live and embody that. That's awesome. But that does not mean, like, all squares are not all squares are not rectangles, but all rectangles are squares, or the other way around. I always forget which way. That not all anti-corporatism is in fact good. It can come from many places. For instance, the actual Nazis. Yes, those Nazis, the Adolf Hitler Nazis, were, at least in theory, anti-corporate. They used anti-corporate messaging, anti-capitalist messaging, and not actual anti-capitalism. They were very, very pro-capitalism in many respects. But they used the aesthetics. That's why literally they used red and white and black in the same way that the Soviet Union had and previous communist governments had, to try and appeal aesthetically and try and kind of cloak themselves in a kind of leftist aesthetic. They used anti-capitalist messaging, which often just revolved around the Jews are bankers, don't you know? Type, nod and a wink type stuff. In order to try and appeal to leftist sentiments within working class people. And middle and upper class people to a degree, I suppose. And it's similar today, with today's fascists. One of whom you can see on the screen. And no, I'm not referring to Dr. Cornel West. Dr. Cornel West is awesome, and I will happily lick and or suck any part of that man's body. That's a different thing. I'm talking about Tucker Carlson. You can see him on the screen there. He is a fascist. I think that's worth just absolutely stating right up front before we even get into the clip. Tucker Carlson is a fucking fascist. Tucker Carlson could come out and say any number of anti-corporate, anti-capitalist things, and I don't really give a fuck because he's a fascist. He has not shown himself in any way to be a friend of the working man. He is a stooge of the upper classes. He's a stooge of the elite. He professes anti-elitism, but we know from clips in the past that he is very much pro-elitism. He is an heir to the Swanson food dynasty. That's a very American thing. We don't really have that here. We might do, but it's called something else. I don't know what that corporation would be called here. But even so, he is a multi-millionaire in the waiting. He's one of the most powerful corporate media tycoon elite people, out there. He's got a massive platform, and he's done nothing but suck Donald Trump's dick for the last few years. The only mild piece of pushback you will ever hear from Tucker Carlson towards the right wing is that they're not being racist enough. The only fucking pushback you will ever hear from Tucker Carlson in regard to corporations is, corporations are bad in some generic, unspecified way, or they're being too woke. So basically, they're not being racist enough. So any leftist who, for a fucking second, thinks that this piece of shit is worth listening to is an idiot, okay? And yes, I'm talking about people like Jimmy Dore, who can fuck off. I'm talking about Crystal Ball. She can fuck right off. I'm talking about leftists, like those who support Tulsi Gabbard, for instance, who have quite broadly aligned themselves now with the far right, as far as I'm concerned. If you're still one of these people who thinks Tulsi Gabbard is anything other than a slice of lukewarm shite, you can go fuck yourself. So yeah, but like I say, this is a way in which desperate people, and the left around the world at the moment are desperate. Trust me, none more so than myself. But the thing is, desperation doesn't mean sacrificing your self-fucking respect or the things that you believe in. Okay? It is desperate people who are so desperate for a win, so fucking hungry for any kind of win whatsoever. And I get it, American left, I get it, right? Bernie Sanders has just been defeated. And it's even worse for you because the American left is farcically powerless, even compared to the British powerless left, okay? And there's a small fly annoying me. Go away. They're me fucking swatting away the small guy. See? Maybe I'm an elitist. I'm not. Anyway. So having explained the Jeremy Corbyn's defeat here and how that hurt me, it probably hurt American leftists way more that Bernie Sanders just punched the microphone. Bernie Sanders was just defeated, again for a second time, to yet another, basically, corporate Democrat, right? So I get that you're hurt, and you're desperate for any win. I get that. I absolutely get that. But the thing is, you've already basically had a win, first and foremost. Just the fact that Bernie Sanders was a viable candidate 2 election cycles in a row is itself a huge step forward. 10 years ago, Bernard Hussein Sanders, and yes, that is his middle name, it's not really, never mind, wouldn't have been anywhere. I remember Dennis Kucinich back in the day, who wasn't nearly as left-wing as Bernie Sanders, or at least in terms of the programme he was putting forward, was a laughable third candidate. He was nothing, in terms of the Democratic nomination, right? So the left is already on the rise in America. What you don't want to be doing is jeopardising what gains have been made by aligning yourself with fucking scum like Tucker Carlson. But unfortunately, and I'm going to try and stay as calm as I can. I really am. But know this, I'm a profoundly lazy person. When I set out to do the Monday to Friday shows, and I will continue doing those, I knew that was going to be like a thing for me to do. And so to having drawn me into a weekend stream, I think you can tell that my level of anger must be so up there that it has surpassed my already permanent high level of laziness. So you can tell I'm pitched at an angry level, but I'm going to try and stay as calm as I can during this. But no, bubbling beneath the surface is some TOS breaking levels of anger, okay? So I'm going to try and at least stay away from that, but know that I might not necessarily be successful. Let us continue. So, today, woke up perfectly fine, right? Someone sent me a link to the clip you can see on the screen, or to the tweet you can see on the screen. which is from a guy called John Nichols. Now, I'd never heard of this fucker before, and frankly, I'd be happy to never hear from this cunt ever again. He is the author of a guy called The Fight for the Soul of the Democratic Party, which was released in May. He writes for The Nation, the Free Press, and The Progressive. So, and follower of Tom Paine. Okay, suck yourself off as much as you like, lad. Anyway, so a left-wing guy, right? And he put out this tweet, which, even before having heard the clip, genuinely, I was baffled and angered to the point where insert sentence that would break TOS rules here. That's all I can say. Cornel West, according to John Nichols, Cornel West is such a brilliant teacher that in less than a minute he got Tucker Carlson to recognise the genius of democratic socialism. Cornel West, as far as I'm aware, is a brilliant teacher. He's certainly a rather good human being and a good speaker. I'm not throwing a single hint of shade Cornel West's way. Like I said, I will happily whore myself out to this man. Not a problem. Tucker Carlson, on the other hand, according to John, had accepted the genius of democratic socialism. That's interesting, because last time I checked, Tucker Carlson had recognised the quote-unquote genius of ethno-states. Had basically been Donald Trump's little bitch for 4 years. So this was a turn up for the books, I thought. Well, what I actually thought was, insert sentence that would break TOS rules here. Let's not go into it. So I thought, okay, this is going to annoy me. And it did. It fucking did. Let's have a little play. I'm just going to let the full 45 seconds play through first, and we'll get to it.
Fundamental commitment is to the dignity of ordinary people and to make sure they can live lives of decency. So it's not an ism, no, brother. It's about decency. It's about fairness. It's about the accountability of the powerful vis-a-vis those who have less power. At the workplace, women dealing with the household, gays, lesbians, trans, black people, indigenous peoples, immigrants. How do we ensure that they are treated decently and that the powerful don't in any way manipulate, subjugate, and exploit them?
Well, I mean, if that's what democratic socialism is, then I'm basically on board. I do think that ordinary people, middle-class people, ought to have dignity. And I think that our current systems make it hard for them to have dignity. So I agree with all of that.
No. There are several issues to take. A, with what Mr. Nichols says, and B, what actually takes place in the clip. And, indeed, the juxtaposition between those two. Firstly, Cornel West, as is proper for a communicator of ideas, especially on enemy territory, he's on Fox News. Look, that's not his place, right? He's very much involved in a road game, to put it in sporting parlance. He does the elevator pitch. He does the basic, bare bones, this is what we believe shtick. It's not dishonest, but very reductive. And that's the point. You're giving people the easiest of ins to the topic. Because you don't go, actually what we stand for is nationalising the fucking industries and all that shit. You don't start off with that. No one starts off with that, okay? That's like quite a big difference between the current situation and the situation you want it to be. And you want to kind of bring people in. You feed them a few breadcrumbs and lead them down the trail, so to speak, right? Again, it's not dishonest, it's reductive. So it gives you the basic bare bones. These people are being fucked over by the system. Democratic socialism is about trying to not fuck these people over with the system. Build a system that doesn't fuck people over. That is true, of course. But that's not remotely the actual way in which... that doesn't even remotely begin to describe the actual ways in which that would take place. So, the fact that Tucker Carlson can lyingly infer that he agrees with Dr. Cornel West on that, and again, he is lying. He doesn't fucking believe that the people that Cornel West mentioned there are of equal value to white people, are of equal worth and deserving of equal rights as white people. He absolutely doesn't believe that. He's shown that rather conclusively throughout his entire time at Fox News and a little bit before then as well. So the fact that he can do that means it's clearly reductive, because Cornel West, understandably, look, it's not a fucking politics lecture, he's just having a brief interview on a fucking news show. West doesn't go into like how that would be achieved. He doesn't go into breaking down systems of oppression. He doesn't go into, democratization of the workplace. He doesn't go into actually fucking over capitalists, which is what has to happen, frankly, to put it in rather crude but accurate terms. None of which Tucker Carlson would ever fucking be on board with, okay? So, for John Nichols to say that West even went into the genius of democratic socialism is a lie. He didn't. He gave the bare bones, the absolute fucking barest bones description of the general idea of why democratic socialism would be a good idea. That's it, though. Okay? He didn't even begin to break down any of the ways in which that would be brought about, which Tucker Carlson would never agree with. So John Nichols is a lying cunt. That's not really the problem, though, right? The problem is that even within that very, very bare bones description, West goes into several groups, right? He mentions trans people, people of colour, indigenous people, so on and so forth, right? Tucker Carlson doesn't say that, though, does he? Shall we go back? Shall we revisit Tucker Carlson's piece of nonsense? Because, like I say, Cornel West talks about specific groupings of people who are being fucked over by the system.
And exploit them.
Well,
and Tucker Carlson says,
I mean, if that's what democratic socialism is, then I'm basically on board. I do think that ordinary people, middle-class people...
Ordinary people, middle-class people. Not trans people, not black people, not working-class people. Ordinary people, middle-class people. When a white supremacist, white nationalist piece of fucking garbage, like Tucker Carlson, says ordinary people, what is it do you think, dear viewer, if I may posit that question to you, what do you think he might mean by that? Do you think he means LGBT people? Do you think he means any marginalised group whatsoever? Or does he mean white, straight, cis people? And largely men, let's be honest. He doesn't really even particularly like white, straight, cis women either. Or at least not outside of the kitchen/bedroom. Irrelevant though, right? He doesn't mean any of those marginalised groups. That's why, being the lying cunt that he is, he would not say, I support equal rights or equal treatment for any of those groups. He specifically says, ordinary people. Cornel West did not say ordinary people. Now, he may very well, I think quite rightly, say, if questioned further upon it, that he does see those groups of people as ordinary people. Yeah, because they're just everyday people going about their fucking lives, right? But that's not the point. When a white nationalist says ordinary, middle-class people, he doesn't mean me. Although I suppose to a degree he does, because I am a white, straight, cis man. But I'm a working-class man, right? He doesn't mean Cornel West. He doesn't mean trans people. He doesn't mean black people. Doesn't mean Jewish people. He doesn't often even really mean Catholics. He means WASPs. Is essentially what he's going for there, right? He's essentially a waspy, supremacist, borderline KKK cunt, right? That's what he is. We all know that's what he is. So to pretend that his reinterpretation of the bare bones of equality, as described by Cornel West, is in any way him acknowledging or recognising the genius of democratic socialism is so fucking dishonest as to be untrue. Okay? It's just an outright lie. It's not even lying by omission or anything like that. It's just a fucking lie. It's dishonest shit. Why? And again, I get it. I get it. You're desperate, left. You're so desperate for a win. This isn't a fucking win. It's nothing. It's nothing. And it gets worse. It gets so much worse. And I'm not even going to take you through the responses to this, because some of them made me want to blow my fucking brains out in Minecraft. Only in Minecraft, though. Only video game violence is ever acceptable. This clip is from 2018. The clip I've just shown you, well, 1.5 bit times, is from 2018. It's from nearly 2 fucking years ago. So, Cornel West gave a bare bones breakdown of equality, really, not even democratic socialism. Although it's within the scope of democratic socialism, of course. It's just equality, basically, right? And dismantling systemic inequality. Tucker Carlson rewords it, and that happened 2 years ago, yet it's being spread around, because again, look at this. 21,000 likes, 4.4 thousand retweets, right? A pretty substantial number. And nearly another 1,000 quote tweets, quote tweets as well. So, you know, the thick end of 6,000 quote tweets. And you've got, from 2 years ago, in the subsequent time, since apparently Tucker Carlson accepted the genius of democratic socialism, he has said that immigrants are making America dirty. He has actively supported babies being put in fucking prison, in cages. He has said virtually nothing in opposition to Donald Trump and his fucking evil bullshit. He has supported Donald Trump's tax cuts, which have fucked over the poorest and helped the richest. Tucker Carlson is an elitist, didn't I mention? Right? He has actively supported the subversion of American democracy. Again, fundamentally going against the democratic element of democratic socialism, right? He has supported the Republican Party in all of their attempts to remove healthcare from the poorest Americans in the country. He's done all of that, and it was found out that his fucking lead writer was a neo-Nazi prick on one of those websites. And he wasn't fired for that. And he still works for Fox News. But apparently, the fact that he gave a reworded, vague kind of affirmation of a bare bones description of equality is enough for the American left, so desperate for a victory, to suck Tucker Carlson's cock. That insert sentence that breaks TOS rules here. It's so anger-inducing, I swear to God. And it's a thing that the left keep trying to do. Stop, for the love of fucking God, stop falling for this right-wing bullshit. Okay? Tucker Carlson, just because he'll occasionally come out and say, corporations aren't perfect, you know. Corporations are a little bit bad. Doesn't mean anything. Don't judge them by the occasional, vaguely worded anti-corporate message, and trust them by the actual things they do, the things they actually support. If Tucker Carlson consistently comes out and shills for Donald Trump, who has deregulated on a mass scale and given a massive tax cut to the rich whilst fucking over the poorest in society, he's not our friend. Stop trying to make him look like our friend. Please, I understand. I so, to the very core of my being, to the very fucking centre of who I am, understand how desperately the left needs a win. We're like a fucking scared, confused animal running around, desperately looking for any shelter. This isn't shelter. If you run into the wolf's mouth, you are technically out of the rain. You're not in a safer place, though, are you? Anyway, how are we doing? We okay? I need to get that off my chest. I absolutely need to get that off my chest. Oh, pardon me. Yeah, that's basically all I wanted to say for now. I'm happy to stay and talk for a bit if people want. I just needed to get that off my chest. Nazis might find themselves well received at Fox News. Yeah, absolutely. You watched fucking Carl Rittenhouse's White Power Hour or something when he gets out of prison, which he probably will. You know. Actually, why am I giving them ideas? I do that as a joke, right? I'll say I'll say stuff like, yeah, actually, um, hang on, what Antifa General? Oh, sorry, um, stop reading the chat. Yeah, I say things as a joke, and then they happen, and you're like, oh, this is really depressing. I feel like John Nichols' intention in posting this clip was to advertise Carlson to the left and probably get recruits in a similar way to how The Hill does. But I could be wrong. Yeah, I mean, I don't know John Nichols, but I know like The Hill, like the show Rising with Sagar Anjetti. Is that his name? The guy that was actually on the list of potential, the presidential debates. Both sides put out a list of people they would be okay with being the moderator, and he was on there. The guy who goes on about like the cultural Marxists, like infecting the schools and stuff. Like he's literally like a fucking weird brown-skinned Nazi. It's a thing, apparently. Yeah, it's Crystal Ball, and they basically do that again. Looking at a show like that on the Hill, which is funded by like a Trump super fucking donor, and saying to yourself that these people are like could be treated as one of us or like, as allies or something, just because they'll go like, corporations are a bit shit. But also, what about the Jews? Or word to that effect. Because if you're going about cultural Marxists, you're talking about Jewish people. Let's not fucking pretend and beat around the bush here. You're talking about Jewish people. You're a fucking Nazi. Sorry, just the way it is. And if you don't understand that, maybe you shouldn't be fucking talking about it. Whew. No, seeing Fox News makes me question why I had to be born human. Bad. Yeah, it's not great. If you need to relax, take your mind off things. You can clean my litter box. You're not Rory Cats. You're not Rory. You're a person pretending to be my cat. Stop. It's weird, whoever you are. Christy retracted. Oh, hello, Christy. But why did you retract a message? Did it break TOS? I nearly did that a few times. Where are we? Yeah, Wasp is a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Where are we? Yeah, apologies if I got a bit angry, a bit ranty on that one. There we go. Oh yeah, Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed, didn't she? Yeah. Firstly, rest in peace, or rest in power, I think is the new thing that people say. Yeah, it's awful. Because I mean, obviously, I don't know why anyone's surprised that the Republicans lied. Like previously, it was like, no, in an election year, you can't do a nomination in an election year when they thought Hillary was going to win, right? And now they say, no, we need to do it straight away. We need to do it straight away. And there are certain Republican senators who have come out and said that they won't vote to do that, but I don't trust them for a fucking second. Not for a second. Trump is the Republican Party now. And if they're looking to get re-elected in November, and they try and stop Trump's nomination, he'll come out against them, and they'll lose. And Trump will do that. Trump would happily sacrifice the entire Republican Party for his own selfish, petty reasons. He absolutely would. So yeah, I don't trust any of them. So you probably have like fucking, I don't know, Supreme Court Justice Richard Spencer or something. Do you consider Tito to be good or bad? I presume you mean Josip Tito, the leader of Yugoslavia for many years. Well, like everyone who's a leader, he's complex. He was an anti-Nazi partisan in is it Croatia where he was from? I forget. Or Serbia. One of the now formerly Yugoslav republics. So that's pretty badass. No doubt about that. There's no doubt he was dictatorial in many respects, although he didn't sell his country out to Soviet imperialism, so that's something. And I like the market socialism aspect of much of what went on in Yugoslavia, from what I know, although I'm certainly not an expert. So yeah, complicated. Would I have wanted to live under his rule? Probably not. A lot of imposition on personal freedom and things, which is not cool. And he did take money from America, so again, not brilliant, but understandable given the circumstances, I suppose. So complicated is the way I would describe it. Yeah. Not that it really matters, because I mean, I think the left, and again, I'm not going to go too far into the craziness of it all, but because I feel like I've sort of attacked the left enough for this stream. But part of the problem the left have is with like being too like fucking obsessed with like long dead leaders and shit. Like talking about, well, Lenin said this and Stalin said that. I don't fucking care. I don't care. It's not fucking relevant. Like, especially when you go further back, like, what Marx was a genius, but Marx lived 150 years ago. He did well in terms of describing the development of factory capitalism, urban proletariat capitalism, or urban bourgeois capitalism, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know why all your things are going up for review. Sorry. Yeah, so Marx was very good at that, but he lived 150 years ago. I think Marx would be really ashamed that much of Marxism is still about Marx. Because he literally said that you needed to go by the concrete realities of the world you lived in. And to look to the writings of 150 years ago is ludicrous. The actual world around us is so different to that world. It's fucking mad. I don't know why you would. I don't know why people get caught up on that sort of thing. I'm not saying don't read it. They're important historical documents, but that's what they are. They're historical documents, man. Like thinking that. I mean, when they talk about people being revisionists, motherfucker, how could you not be? How could you not be a revisionist? Marx is talking about a world that doesn't exist anymore. There is no urban proletariat in the way he described. We don't have factories in the again. I can only speak for the West, right? We don't have those things anymore. People don't fucking work in factories and mines anymore, for the most part. You know? Yeah, I agree, Tedious. Reading Marx and understanding it is important to developing, a fuller understanding of how these systems operated and what we might be able to do about them. But a lot of people do this weird book worship thing where they'll read Das Kapital or whatever and take it as some sort of biblical gospel. Which, by the way, I mean, I think would be stupid because I think biblical gospel is a lot of shit as well. But regardless, if, taking it the usual phrase of saying, Bible truth or whatever, as it had been seen for hundreds of years, people viewed Marx in that way. And that's really silly. That can't lead you to a good place. It's not, and not just that, but it's fundamentally anti-Marxist. It's anti-dialectical. It's silly. PZ, oh hello PZ Myers, scientist PZ Myers, my friend, the scientist PZ Myers. Why should we care what Marx said about whether he should be honoured now if we don't care what Marx said? Indeed. But that must sort of my point is if you think Marx was a good writer, you should really take on board the fact that, I mean, and not only did he not like Marxists of his own day, which I think is quite funny, but he literally said that you shouldn't, like, to think of things as static and unmoving, which you would have to, in order to be like an orthodox Marxist or whatever, you'd have to think of the world as not changing, which is fundamentally anti-Marxist. Marx knew that the world fucking changed, obviously. He was literally predicting how the world would change, and predicted it very fucking well for the most part. The revolutions he predicted didn't quite happen, and that's, that is what it is. And actually, I'll get onto that in a second. But yeah, so he was literally predicting how things would change. So to think that the world is static enough that 150 years later, Marx is like some sort of absolute authority on anything is fucking ludicrous, and something which Marx would despise, I believe. I don't know. I mean, I didn't know the guy. He lived a little bit before I did, so I mean, I am old, but I'm not that fucking old. Anyway, but yeah, my favourite piece of sort of far left dogmatism I've ever seen was there was a fantastic group of absolute lunatics who were Trotskyists. Now, I don't say that in the way tankies use that as a buzzword for like Jews or whatever. I mean that literally, they were followers of Leon Trotsky, who obviously was killed by Stalin, or a Stalinist agent technically, because Stalin didn't do it. He did order it, but he didn't do it. With it famously an ice pick through the head. Gruesome, I know. But anyway, he predicted, like obviously he died during the Second World War, right? And he predicted that the Second World War would be so terrible that that afterwards the proletarian revolution would take place, and that would be like the way in which you could tell definitely that the war had come to an end, right? Because looking back on an event, we say, well, it started in X year and ended in Y year. But when you're in the middle of it, how do you know when it ended? Did the people think when the war in Europe had ended that the war had ended? Because the war in Asia was still happening. So exactly when, so his whole point was that the way in which you could tell would be that there'd be a series of proletarian revolutions to rise up against those that had dragged the proletarian into yet another world war in such quick succession, and crushed them and killed millions of them, tens of millions of them. And because that didn't happen, because there weren't those proletarian revolutions for the most part, there were the occasional bit flare-ups, and certainly communism went on and became a significant combat issue around the world for quite a number of decades afterwards. Like there wasn't like a spontaneous uprising of proletarians around the world. This group of Trotskyists refused to believe that the Second World War was over. They literally refused to accept that war had ended, even though, like, obviously it had ended. Like, Hitler was dead, the Nazis were all on trial being executed, the atomic bombs had been dropped on Japan, all of that. But they just fucking refused, absolutely refused, to believe that the war was over. Which is one of the most fantastically inflexible pieces of dogmatism I've ever heard of. Just refused to accept reality because the prediction the dead guy I liked what didn't come true. Madness. Anyway. The Origin is a lovely historical document, but modern evolutionary theory has left it in the dust. Exactly. Actually, yeah, that's a perfectly good analogy, Peasy. The way creationist twats will go on about what Darwin said. No one fucking cares what Darwin said. It made an absolutely phenomenal contribution to science in his day, something for which he should be rightly remembered with a great deal of fondness and affection and all the rest of it. But he's a historical figure who wrote important historical documents. What it actually says on the origin of species is fucking irrelevant to modern science. It's moved so far beyond it. And again, understandably, he didn't even know what the gene was. He predicted that such a thing must exist in order for there to be that transfer mechanism, but he didn't know what it was, so how could he possibly have fucking described how all of that worked? He couldn't have. And so I'm not trying to denigrate either Darwin's contribution to evolutionary science or Marx's contribution to socialist political philosophy or anything like that, but they're so far, like, things have moved so far beyond both of those men. They lived at roughly the same fucking time. They existed in the same fucking same time and rough location. They both lived in London, didn't they? For quite some time. And actually, an interesting three-way thing just popped into my head. Darwin was born on the same day as Abraham Lincoln. Not the same, like, literally, not that when you say, like, oh, I've got the same birthday as Mr. T, which is technically true in my case. But look, they're literally born on the same day in the same year, on the other sides of oceans, of course. But and Marx and Abraham Lincoln were regular communication via letter. So yeah, but anyway, so yeah, they existed at the same time in the same location, all the rest of it, and had huge impacts. But things have progressed so far beyond those men, those now long dead men. We need to move past them. Their bones lie mouldering in the grave. Actually, they're so old now they're probably not even mouldering anymore. They're just bare. Whatever, right? We can't rely on their words. Fuck off, fly. There's a tiny fly annoying me. Stop it. Why am I trying to reason with a fly? Anyway. Yeah. So, yeah, my basic point was they're old and shit. Look, things have moved on. Let's not pretend that what they said actually matters anymore, because it doesn't. Not that I'm saying don't read them, not that I'm saying they didn't have huge impacts and all of that. So by all means clip me out of context and say, oh, he thinks he's better than Marx. Which is obviously not true. Did you see that man's fucking beard? Like, mine is delicious, but Karl Marx absolutely outdid me on that one. So, there's that. You need more spiders. I don't need more spiders, PZ. Spiders are the devil's work. The devil's dead as well, though, so we need to move past him. So, I don't know what that means. Never mind. Sorry. Is there anything going on the Twitch? Kevception. What's this?
Or less a threat to your life. So in that case, yes, you would have the
And
right.
You don't think any of these businesses might have felt the same? Wait, you don't know.
Yes.
You fuck.
What? I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Sorry. I've been clipped on thingamajig and I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I mean, Trump probably isn't a Republican or anything. He's just an opportunist. Yeah, absolutely. He's just an opportunist. Oh, this is the thing. He's a fascist. There's no doubt about it. Trump is absolutely a fucking fascist. But he's not ideologically driven by that. He's just an opportunist piece of shit who's worked out that fascism is the best way he can get to and hold power. The ideologue... And actually the same is true with Boris Johnson, for instance. But the thing is, you've got to look for the people behind the throne. The actual fascist ideologues that are doing the actual politics of it. In the case of America, you've got like Stephen Miller. And in Britain, you've got the guy called Dominic Cummings. Those are the people whose actual ideologies need to be looked at and discussed, because neither Trump or Johnson have an ideology. Their ideology is pure ego. Pure narcissistic ego. They want all of the trappings of office, all the trappings of state. They want to be feted around the world. They want to be wined and dined by fellow leaders and have them bow and scrape to them because they're leaders of powerful countries. And that's going to happen when you have an unfair, dare I say it, neo-colonial relationship with much of the rest of the world. But they don't actually put the work in. They don't want to actually do anything with it because they're not ideologically driven. They're not driven in that way. They're driven partly by self-interest, be that financial or political, but they're not actually interested in... they have no ideological conviction. If they could have gotten to where they are via some other method, if communism had offered them that method, they'd have gone with that. They wouldn't have given two fucks. It's the people behind the throne. So, Stephen Miller, Steve Bannon, Dominic Cummings here in Britain, those people are the ones that you really need to zone in on and learn from, because those are the people who've actually got the reins of power. The person out front is the figurehead, basically. Not just that, but self-appointed. It's not like there's been a coup against them or anything. That's what they always wanted. They wanted the appearance of power and all the trappings of power without actually having to operate the levers, because that can be difficult and at times unforgiving. And so you need to be ideologically driven in order to actually bother doing that, because it's quite a lot of work, quite a lot of effort. And you will get things wrong and be made to look a cunt. Especially when you don't put the effort in. So, yeah. It was you watching yourself. Just wanted to clip you watching yourself. Oh, okay. So when you clipped me yesterday, I watched that clip on stream and you clipped me watching the clip of me. Which means you can now clip me watching actually, no, because that wasn't on the screen. Haha! That was on my other tab. So you can't clip me watching me. I see your game. Why is this still on the screen? Right, just leave it on the screen, who gives a fuck? Yeah, but I don't have anything else planned, by the way, for the rest of the stream, so if you want to leave, you can. But I'm just going to chat to people. Talking about abolishing private property, will people who think you mean sharing your toothbrush? Yeah, some people are fucking idiots, yeah. Socialism has never been about people sharing toothbrushes. That's ridiculous. Learn the difference between private and personal property. Yeah, Trump is a demagogue. Yeah, absolutely. What is the Republican Party if not a party of shameless opportunists? Well, no, they are certainly opportunists, but that's not just what they are. They're opportunists who are ideologically driven in many cases. The Sheldon Adelsons of this world are absolutely ideologically driven. The kind of pseudo-libertarianist but actual authoritarianist tendency is very much ideologically driven. Most of Trump's speeches are nothing but like that show Futurama where Bender makes a statue of himself saying "Remember me." I don't quite know what you mean by that, but yeah, his speeches are pretty meaningless. Why do people call Boris Johnson Boris when they don't do that with any other MP? He has good marketing. Yeah, he has excellent marketing. He's marketed himself as, oh, your friend Boris, the bumbling fool Boris, whereas actually he's not that at all. He's a very power-hungry, money-hungry, self-interested piece of shit. He's a really nasty individual. Trump literally lifted a segment of his last RNC speech from Mein Kampf. Did he? What? Do you have a link to that? He lifted it from Mein Kampf. I mean, it doesn't surprise me in the sense that he's often expressed ideas that absolutely could have been. But if he lifted it from Mein Kampf, is that word for word or is there interpretation? I don't know. Is greed an ideology? Well, greed is the base impulse behind a lot of right-wing ideology, is what I would suggest there. Greed itself isn't an ideology, obviously, but libertarians aren't libertarians because they think it's good for everyone else. They may argue that point because it makes it more saleable to a broader base of people, but it's naked self-interest. So greed is like because basically human beings make up ideology to try and justify feelings, in essence. Or not, well, we don't make up the ideology. The ideology explains it, but we choose to assign ourselves ideological labels based on the fact that our feelings comport with the expressed ideas of those ideologies. So no one is completely rational when, like, they read Marx and think, well, I'm a Marxist now, because of pure rationality. They were predisposed inside themselves to that kind of thing. And it's not innate. Like, you're not born a communist or born whatever. It's socialization, obviously, but it's an internal feeling or set of feelings that you have that lead you towards prioritizing certain things above certain other things. So that would be how I would, in my very, very broad and uneducated way, describe that. As we all know, Marx said we must share the toothbrushes to clean the slime from this world. Well, as working class people, we are trying to get rid of slime. Like, I had Thought Slime on my channel on, was it Monday or Tuesday? I'll be honest, I felt like a class traitor, because we are supposed to get rid of the slime, as was spake in Caleb Moppin thought in the Little Ginger Book. Trump must have been speaking in the original German. He can't speak English. How the fuck would he even be able to speak a second language? Humans are driven by emotion and rationality comes later. Exactly. That's precisely what I was saying, yeah. You have innate feelings inside... Not innate, sorry. You have feelings inside yourself based on socialisation and self-interest and all sorts of things that that lead you to prioritising certain things over certain other things. Whether it be security over freedom, cooperation over individualism, whatever, right? And those combination of things, along with self-interest, lead you to be part of certain political movements or certain political ideologies. So it's very much like a post hoc rationalisation of internal feelings. What do you think of Posadas? I don't really know a lot about it. It's a thing that I hear people on the internet talk about, but I don't know what the fuck it is. Should we look it up? Let's look it up. Posadas. I've heard of like Posadists and all of that. Posadas, an Argentine Trotskyist, whose personal version is Posadism. Right, the Fourth International Posadist is a Trotskyist international. It was founded in 1962 by J. Posadas, who had been the leader of Latin American Bureau of the Fourth International in the 1950s and the Fourth International section in Argentina. Between their split from the International Secretariat of the Fourth International in 1962 and Posadas' death in 1981, Posadists developed a strain of communism that included several fringe ideas which brought them into conflict with more mainstream leftist groups. Posadism is probably best remembered today for its enthusiasm towards utilising the force of nuclear war as a way of destroying capitalism. Okay. Ironically, red flag. Yeah, that's weird. That's weird and bad. And its attempts to introduce elements of ufology, as in fucking aliens. Into Marxist, arguing that only communism can allow the development of interplanetary travel. They concluded that visiting aliens from other planets must live in highly advanced communist societies and are bound to help Earth-based communists. Hang on, that's what a phrase that is. Are bound to help Earth-based communists with bringing about the modern revolution. Oh, fucking hell. Oh, sorry. Oh, Britain. Oh, we had one. Okay, we had a Posadist party based in Birmingham. The Revolutionary Workers' Party. Fucking hell. For those who don't know, I suppose I should explain I'm from Birmingham, so I found that particularly funny. And it's actually, that I think is rather fitting with Birmingham's history, because of course the phrase lunatic derives from the Birmingham Lunar Society, which was an organisation of industrial revolution era enlightened thinkers and all the rest of it, who actually had people like Benjamin Franklin visit and speak to them and stuff in the past. Yeah, and they were called the Lunar Society. So there's a kind of weird mentalist / space connection to Birmingham's history there. So it's quite apt that we had a Posadist party here. But basically, to answer your question, it's fucking mental. It's obviously fucking mental. Space communists, absolutely. Oh, there we go. So yeah, there you go, Rod. You've been answered. Where are we? Posadas is a lot like Zardos, only 15 minutes short. I certainly hope a lot less rape. There's rape in that film. International Posadist does sound like a Monty Python sketch. Yeah. Is the Birmingham Football Club is a front for Posadist movement? Yeah, absolutely. That's why we're not very good at football. We're too busy trying to establish alien communism. Although we are so far unbeaten in our 2 games this year. 4 points. Delicious. Got a goalless draw away at Swansea today. Very happy. That will help alien space communism revolution. Naturally. Luxury space communists from space. Absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. As long as it's gay. Well, obviously, if they're space communists, they're going to be gay. I think that goes without saying. What's this? Creator of Star Trek was a Posadist. Was he indeed? Was that Roddenberry? What's this? Effective with the periodic and compare. It was apparently coined by... Oh, okay, maybe I'm... Earlier, it was a term for a type of hairstyle worn over the forehead. So the Blagojevich, if you will. The creator... Hang on, hang on, so I've just gotten the joke there. Was he actually a Posadist? Because that would make sense, but it also would be a great joke if he wasn't. Because they are space travellers who have created communism on Earth, haven't they? Star Trek, that is, by the way. There's... Oh, hello, Franglish has just joined me on the Twitch. By the way, yeah, if you're on YouTube, go and give me a follow on the Twitch. And if you're on Twitch, go and give me a subscribe on the YouTubes. Yes, it was Gene Roddenberry that made Star Trek. Well, was he a Posadist? Is it real, which would make sense, or is it actually a funny joke? Oh, it's 2 Ds. Dickheads. Personal life. Oh, hang on. He was raised a Southern Baptist. He was considered a humanist. No, I think that's a joke. I think someone was joking with me, weren't they? He wasn't actually a Posadist at all. He was awarded the 1991 Humanist Arts Award from the American Humanist Association. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, there you go. Crazy days. See, we've all learned a little bit of something there. Oh. Packard sounds like it does in a bot. It does it bot. Don't know what that means. What about Captain Jean-Luc Possard? Nice. The creator of Lost in Space was a Posadist. Okay. Yeah. I'm talking about sounding like a bot. I was thinking about, and I don't know if I'm going to bother, frankly, but this clip of Caleb Moppin, because I've gone down the rabbit hole with Caleb Moppin, who's like this Stalinist tanky Nazbol shithead. He of the Burger King fame, who yeah, I've watched so much of his shit, and it's quite funny because like just the way he speaks is just entertaining because he sounds like a robot, and he's obviously self-aware. He's gained sentience of a kind, because he's self-aware enough that he realizes that people think of him as like a robot man. So there's literally a bit in one of his recent streams where he starts talking about oh, people think I speak like a robot and I just talk about Stalin and blah de blah de blah. And then goes on to try and tell us, no, I'm a real human, guys, honest, and tells us some weird little stories from his life where he went to the bank and the ATM machine, like, it's just ATM, because the M is machine, for God's sake. The ATM chewed his card up and he had to go like into the bank to get it back or whatever. but even then turned it into like a conspiracy thing about wearing the. He claimed, oh god, he's so strange. He claimed, and he might, I don't know if it's true, but he doesn't know if it's true either. He's just making it up. That because people are wearing masks in public and stuff because of the whole COVID thing, that he reckons that because the cameras that film you at the ATM think that you might be a bank robber, so there might be some AI thing which like leads the machines to shut down because you might be a bank robber because he was wearing the face mask because of the COVID. And I was like, why would your mind go there? That's so strange. Anyway, so yeah. So I was going to do like a YouTube poop of the bit where he says, people think sound like a robot man. And then have the second bit be a bit where he goes, those people are correct. Or something like that. So yeah, I might do that. I Google. Apparently it is true about Roddenberry. Well, send me the link then. Because I couldn't find it on his wiki. And that's the only place you ever need to check is Wikipedia. It has all of the information about everything ever. So yeah, Caleb Moppin he's big on the bankers, and when he says bankers, he means Jews. Even though his dad was a banker. That's literally true, by the way. His dad was actually a banker. He tells a story of a time where his dad took him on holiday to Ecuador or Peru or somewhere. When he was like 10, and he saw all this poverty, and it made him a communist. The fact that his dad was probably there to like fuck over those poor people, it doesn't seem to enter his head. I don't think he thinks about things in enormously great detail. Caleb. And actually, the thing is, I like the name Caleb. I think that's a cool name. Certainly far cooler than Kevin. Although not cooler than Francis, and certainly not cooler than Logan. Logan is a badass name. Yeah. Oedipus complex. Why he wants to kill his dad? I suppose that might make sense. Yeah. Although the other side of that, the Oedipus complex, I'm not touching that. No offence to Mrs. Moppin, but I'm not going near anything to do with that discussion. Yes, we've got some Burger Kings in the chat. So presumably some fans of the Surfs in. Hello, fans of the Surfs. Yes. Okay, last roll call for the questions, and then I'll fuck off. I've done over an hour. What more do you fucking want? Only got on here to shout at people for being stupid. So his dad's a banker, and that one time he had a job over summer, very much the working class lad. Yeah, he's not. That's the thing. Yeah, he was like shitting on Thought Slime and various other people. He considers us to be like he calls us the synthetic left. We're not proper, right? And yet he's we're not proper working class or anything, whereas he's not working class at all. And that's fine, like you don't have to be. I'm glad he's a race traitor. That's awesome. But don't pretend you're a working class lad who understands our thing because you worked in a fucking sandwich shop for one summer. Like, don't be stupid, you know? Like his dad was an international banker, my dad worked in a fucking factory. Back when we had factories. That factory shut down. And then we went on to become a school, well, they're called caretakers here in Britain, a school janitor for the Americans. So, you know, as he delightfully described it, a glorified shithouse cleaner. So, you know, he's Irish. I don't know if I've mentioned that. he's Irish and phenomenally working class. I love him dearly. Like I am working class scum too, but he takes it to a new level, that lad. Okay. What about the nut job anti-maskers? Well, the question rather sums up my answer. They're nut jobs. they're so strange, and not just that, but they're cognitive dissonance in these people's fucking minds about like they'll say, "Oh, you sheeple, you need to be less scared of the world. Germs exist and stuff. Look, it's not the end of the world." And then we'll simultaneously hold the thought in their head that 5G is going to give them bum cancer or something, or that fucking I don't know, vaccines have got cancer in them. Like, just fucking mental bullshit. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, so yeah, the anti-mask people can suck all of my anus, frankly. So he is an organic robot. I presume you're referring to Caleb Muppin. No, he's actually a Nazbol. A Nazbol. And by the way, if there's anyone who knows how I can get hold of legally acquired copy of his new book, but without having to pay him, because he's got a new book out and it's called Kamala Harris and the Future of America, which is looks amazing. I'm sure it'll be fucking ridiculous, just like anything else of his I've read. So if you can get me hold of a copy of that, but like I say, I don't want to. Look, if I wanted to, I could just go onto Amazon and buy it, right? But I don't want to give him any fucking money, Jesus. So if anyone can hook me up with a copy of that book, then yeah, buy it used on eBay. But then I'd have to give money to someone who gave money to Caleb Muppin, and again, that could be a Nazi, couldn't it? I don't know. But anyway, yeah. If a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, is Carl Benjamin still a prick? Story. It's a question as old as time itself. I don't know if I can really answer. Like, I think it would be gauche, considering the great minds of all of history haven't been able to answer. Oh no, he's still absolutely a prick. Yeah. Aren't all organic robots? We are kind of. Used bookstore. There's no way his shit book is ever going to make it into either a used bookstore here in Britain or a library. Like, technically it'll be in the British Library, because the British Library hold a copy of every book in the English canon, which is fine and an interesting thing to do, but also therefore means it contains copies of Caleb Muppin's book, so although I believe most of that's now digitised, but even so, they hold a copy of every book in English. But that's one library in the world that does that. Whereas the libraries that I have access to, like libraries in my area, they're not going to have his fucking book. Why would they? Like, they have good books. I mean, they also have some shit books, but they don't have books that are that shit. How niche do you have to get? He's got the same number of fucking YouTube subscribers as me. Why would they have someone so obscure? Absolutely pointless. I'm sure there are loads of great political theory books you can get, but why would they have his? Was Stalin a Nazbol? Kind of. I mean, he was proto-Nazbol in the sense that Nazbol as an ideology didn't exist, but the concept of socialism in one country is kind of National Socialism of a sort. And he was certainly very homophobic, as Nazbols are. He was certainly very racist, especially towards Jewish people, as Nazbols are. So there are there are some significant similarities. He was proto-Nazbol, if you will. It was just, if the mop head is calling some people synthetic and he's a robot, does that mean he's an organic robot? Maybe. JK got cancelled. Well, as I've always said with people who get cancelled, if you live in a mansion, it doesn't seem that you've really been cancelled. You're fine. Get over yourself. The only robot mecha I want is a Valkyrie. I don't know what that means. Couldn't your local library get the book on loan? Possibly. They possibly could, but like I say, it's digitised, so maybe therefore they could get hold of it, I don't know. But I kind of want a physical copy, so I can read through bits of it. Although I suppose I didn't for War Corps. So if you can get me a digital copy somewhere, I don't know. But anyway, I presume that's all of the questions, so I'm going to fuck off. But this was needed. This catharsis was absolutely needed on my part. Thank you to everyone who stopped by for the nonsense. Like I say, if you're on YouTube, go and click the link below and go and follow me on Twitch. And if you're on Twitch, go and give me a subscription on the YouTubes. Walkups didn't just write a whole book, he wrote several books, and I analysed them on my channel, and they are fucking awful. They are so bad it's untrue. And yes, trans rights. Yeah, thank you to everyone for your listings and your watchings. I'll kick you over, I'll raid whatever channels there were. Chud logic, fuck it. On the Twitch. And I will say goodbye, God bless, and good night, even though I don't believe in God, and it might not be night where you are, but all of that shit. See you later.